Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you all about the recently released TCM AGS, which is a premium Western Alliance Era 3 light tank for the Cold War game mode. I have 3 replays for you showcasing what the tank is capable of, in my hands anyway. First off, in this replay we are on Mannheim, and you're going to be seeing some gameplay of this tank in a sort of city urban setup, and I'm going to just run down the statistics of the tank, the price, and my equipment and commander setup. And then in the following 2 replays I shall be talking a bit more about my gameplay and how I feel about this tank and how it performs. So just to touch on the price, might as well start off at the worst bit. Yeah, it's really expensive, as are most of the Cold War premium tanks. Obviously, I guess Wargamer's thinking is, you know, it's more expensive than the Tier 10 premium, which is already very expensive because these are more powerful than the Tier 10 in the World War II game mode. But I don't think it justifies the price that it is. I'd pick up Cold War premiums only if I really like the gameplay, because they are so expensive. So the top bundle, the Prime bundle, I believe, the most expensive is 17,690 gold, and then you go down in price right down to the base, which is 14,390 gold. So very expensive. So definitely make sure you think you'd like this tank and you think you like the kind of gameplay it gives you. Make sure you definitely want this tank before you purchase it, because something might be coming on along next week, or in a month's time, that you're going to like even more. So that being said, does this tank make silver? And yes it does. The silver earn rate on this is an extra 50%. The extra XP earn rate is 25%. The free XP earn rate is 4%, and it has a crew XP earn rate of 10%. So this is a light tank, and in Era 3, the hit points for 2,750 is it's low. It's kind of mediocre for a light tank. It's not the lowest, I believe, in Era 3, but it's definitely not the highest. It has 565 meters base view range, which is quite decent. I think it's better than the Bradley, I believe. Yeah, so it's not too bad in that regard. The engine it has is only a 500 horsepower engine, and on paper it looks nippy, but I don't know, you'll find out my sort of thoughts on that a little bit further down the line. It's kind of sluggish to get going. It takes a little bit of time to sort of get off the mark. Yeah, and it's not as good as it looks on paper. It has a 23.92 horsepower to ton ratio, power to weight ratio, top speed of 72.4 kilometers an hour, and a top reverse speed of 17.7 kilometers an hour. And I found that kind of speed is nearly comparable to sort of every tank in Era 3. All of the heavy tanks, Western Alliance and the Eastern Alliance, are just as quick. Maybe slightly slower, but I feel like as a light tank, this should be quicker, and I should do everything in my power, or I have done everything in my power, to make this as nimble as possible, to sort of try and compete with the heavy tanks. Obviously I'm not going to be brawling 1-to-1, as you'll see in the gameplay. I'm not going to try to anyway, but yeah, it's I find that everything in Era 3 is just kind of the same sort of speed. It's all very fast paced, but I feel like there's not enough differential between the speed of the heavy tanks and speed of the light tanks, and of course that sort of comes with the territory of them being Cold War vehicles. Obviously as development goes on, things are quicker, yeah, obviously the engineering's a lot better, but yeah, it's not what you'll consider like a typical light tank if you're used to like World War II, like I am. I think this is like my second maybe vehicle I played in Era 3, so it's just my sort of first opinion on the speed. So what gun does this tank have? That's probably the most important aspect, and one that most people want to learn about. It has a 105mm gun, but it has a 9-shot autoloader, which is absolutely insane. And this 9-shot autoloader deals 480 alpha damage, per shot, but it has a interclip reload of 3.5 seconds, so it's kind of like a single shot, going with 3.5 second reload, and then you have like a reload time of 36 seconds base just to sort of cool off and maybe relocate, reposition, that kind of thing. So I think that's the best way that I found to sort of look at it, if that makes sense. The rate of fire is 8.44 rounds a minute, and the aiming time on this gun, very good, 2.1. Accuracy at 0.29 base is very, very good, and the depression is 10 degrees, which is absolutely excellent. Very, very useful in a number of scenarios on ridge lines, so I find that's very good. Elevation is 18 degrees, which is slightly lacking, but it's not too bad. Ammo capacity, 45 rounds. With that reload, you're going to struggle to get through all of those rounds, so it has enough rounds. Yeah, and it's yeah, I found it's challenging, as you'll see in the gameplay in the background. But in that game on Mannheim, we did manage to pick up 6.2k direct damage and 734 assistance in a loss. We finished top of the leaderboard, so not too bad, nothing I can complain about. So we're going to skip on to the next replay, and I'll just talk you through my equipment and my commander setup, and yeah, we'll look at the gameplay in the background, so I'll catch you there in a bit. So here we are, we're now in the second replay of the video, and we're here on Chao Bang, and I'm just going to talk you through my equipment and my commander. So, as I said previously in the last replay, I want to try and make sure my speed and my manoeuvrability is as good as the sort of Abrams and all of the Eastern Alliance heavy tanks and the other light tanks in this era. I want to try and at least be able to keep up with them, outrun, you know, a few of the heavy tanks on sort of like, depending on what terrain I am, but I'm going to use my what little sort of concealment, and it isn't brilliant, but it is better than the heavy tanks, of course. I want to use that to sort of try and outmaneuver and outflank by enemies, but I obviously want to do that at speed. I want to try and get out of trouble, if possible, as quickly as possible, and I found if you get into trouble in Era 3, it's very difficult to get out of it. You do have to sort of be very mindful of where your team are, keep checking your mini-map, try and support platoon, support where your teammates are going, try not to go solo in this tank, it's very difficult. So I use advanced concealment to try and boost that concealment to get it to what, you know, I feel like a light tank should be. Obviously there is the true vision system in Cold War, but the concealment can be extremely useful, especially on maps like this where there's a lot of foliage. And it sort of helps you to sort of maneuver around without getting spotted, and gives you a little bit of a reaction time if you do get spotted. And I also use the traction system and the advanced powertrain to get my speed up, which gives me, with those two pieces of equipment, a top speed of 83 kilometers an hour. It still feels a little bit sluggish, so, off the mark, as I said at the start of this video, but it does feel a heck of a lot better. If you get this tank, obviously try it without, because special mention should be given to like using vents, using a gun lane drive, or using a gun stabilizer as a third piece of equipment. But I do recommend taking at least one of the speed equipment, especially to help with the hull rotation, because it is very poor. It kind of turns like a boat. You have to use your handbrake a lot to sort of outmaneuver or try and outmaneuver any tank in this era. It's extremely difficult, and coming from a World War, sort of what I mainly play, or what I used to mainly play, and I still do in all fairness, but I'm starting to play this more, as I have learned that you have to adapt your style. It's a heck of a lot different than World War II if you want to be playing at the sort of top end of your game, if you want to be competing with the best players in this era. So on my commander, I have my commander from World War II from my French light tank line, the MX-13105. I have 6th Sense, Spawn Leader, rapid loading, situational awareness, steady aim and snapshot to help with the gun handling, because without any sort of gun handling equipment, it can be a little bit derpy, I found, at long ranges. I use camouflage expertise and muffle shock to help with the camo, and I also use clutch braking to help with that traverse speed, and I think I've got my traverse speeds to something like about 47-48 degrees a second with the equipment, which is a lot better, and it helps me be a lot more manoeuvrable on the battlefield. Also, just to mention, the equipment that I use and the commander skills give me 628 meters view range, fully kitted out, and 203 meters concealment. So, yeah, not too bad. I've sort of got that to a level where I feel comfortable and I feel like I'm learning to play this tank a lot better. So, how do I play this tank? First few games I had, I kind of got a bit aggressive, trying to test what it can do, got into a lot of trouble, found that I couldn't get out of it, and that's when I noticed I needed to sort of try and assist the speed and manoeuvrability and the whole rotation as much as possible. I then had to adapt my gameplay because even though it's very tempting with a massive clip potential of over 4,000 damage, because of that intra-clip reload of 3.5 seconds, as I said previously, you have to kind of think of it as a single shot with a 3.5 second reload. Play carefully like that. Yeah, and obviously when you dumped your clip, you're going to have to relocate with it, stay hidden, and that's when the camo and the flanking comes into play. I found it best to support teammates. It might be obvious to a lot of players that are watching that are kind of veteran players or players that have played a lot of this game, especially a lot of Cold War, but you really have to in this tank. There is no armor on this tank. As I said, most things in this era are going to be able to keep up with you speed wise, so getting out of trouble is extremely difficult. Stay close by to your teammates, and obviously if you have to defend a base, something like that, then you're just going to have to risk it for a biscuit. But apart from that, yeah, I think it's best to stay close and just be a support tank. Wait until someone's fired or you feel like someone's fired, and then go in and put a couple of shots in, and then sort of flank round, rinse and repeat in that kind of way. One-on-one, it's very tempting with an autoloader to go one-on-one and thinking you can clip them out, but it takes a heck of a lot of time, especially with something like an Abrams that has 4,000 hit points. You're going to be dead before you manage to dump your whole clip. So you have to be wary. Only sort of go in after them if they are sort of weakened and you can finish them off. And yeah, one-on-oneing someone or any tank in this era from a full health is very difficult to do. You have to sort of pick your moments and play this tank quite wisely. I don't think this is a tank that a new player can pick up and do extremely well, and you might, you're going to earn a fair bit of silver if you do sort of 2,000 damage minimum. But for Era 3 that's not very good at all, and I found it very difficult to have extremely good games. I'm having sort of more consistent games now of sort of 5 to 6k, but I want to push those numbers higher for Era 3. I think the lowest 3 mark in Era 3 is something like 5,000 damage, so if you're doing that and above, you're doing pretty damn good. Yeah, and that's the end of that game as well, where I've been rambling on, but I think it's an important sort of topic to discuss. Yeah, we finish, I think it was second now, or third on the leaderboard. It was third. We pick up 7k direct damage, 610 assistance damage and 1 kill. Yeah, and a pretty good game for this tank, and you see how much silver you can earn. It's pretty good. Yeah, and we're going to go into the final replay now, where I'm going to talk about what I'm doing in the gameplay finally, and give you a bit more of an insight into that, so I'll see you there in a bit. So here we are, we're now on the third and final replay of the video, and before I forget, I'd just like to say there is a giveaway going on for everyone coming to support my channel and this video in particular. The instructions are in the pinned comment on this video. The closing date's in a week's time. Please check back when the giveaway has closed, and the winners will be announced in the comment section on my pinned comment, and also on my Twitter page, which will be linked in the description below. So yeah, what do I want to do on Dirk La Pass? Well, it's a nice open map. I want to try and use my manoeuvrability, which I have sort of increased as much as possible with the equipment and the commander skills. I'm going to see first off what I can spot to try and get some assistance. I've always tried to push up the assistance in this tank. I find it's a tank that's much easier to get the raw damage than the assistance damage. Obviously if you track people, which you can do, and keep them perma-tracked with the autoloader, you can get assistance that way, but it's not quite the stereotypical kind of World War II light tank gameplay that I'm used to, and that maybe a lot of people are used to. It's much more of a damage dealer, I think, or I found it easy to play that for me. So if you're struggling to play it as a light tank and be effective, yeah, definitely do that. So I've come to the middle with this little ridge, spotted a few tanks, put a shot into that light tank, and I'm going to bug out. And I've noticed that a lot of their team are there in the middle where our team are, so I'm now going to head over towards the east and try and create a different line of attack, draw some of the attention away from our friendlies in the middle. Yeah, I'm still going to try and stay hidden. This is where obviously the concealment stays, the concealment that I've tried to buff up as much as possible comes into effect, because even with true vision they might not be looking this way and I'm unspotted. And I can get to this position on the east and I can shoot into the cap and shoot up to sort of towards the north. One thing to mention, the premium rounds on this tank are APCR, so it's premium APCR, which I kind of prefer in most instances, but as you can see the shell drop off on APCR when you're shooting at long distances, which I found is more this tank's game, the sort of game style and gameplay. It drops off a lot of penetration, so you do end up bouncing a lot of rounds, which can be very frustrating. Even with the premium APCR, the penetration is quite low. I know there has to be a trade-off because, you know, it's a light tank, it has better concealment, has a massive clip potential, but I feel like it should have better penetration maybe. I feel like it's quite weak in that regard, but that's just my personal opinion. You can still make it work, of course, and you can have good games. Like, this is a good game. But yeah, it's quite challenging. I think like this is a tank that's sort of, to have brilliant games, like I said in the last replay, you're going to have to be an extremely sort of lucky, in an extremely lucky scenario if you're a mediocre player, and if you're a great player, you know, it has that potential to have absolutely fantastic games. But if you're very new, this might not be the tank for you. Of course, by all means, if you feel like going for it, go for it. You're still going to make silver even if you do, like I said in the last replay, sort of a couple thousand, few thousand damage. But there are better tanks, sort of era 1 and 2, for doing that are a lot cheaper and a lot easier to play. So just bear that in mind. So I'm getting all my shells in, trying to shoot the sides and rears of tanks, especially with Eastern Alliance tanks. You want to be shooting a sort of flat side as flush as possible. They're sort of looking down on the back of their hull on top of the turret, sort of trying to avoid the space armor. And if you're looking at their lower plate, you've got to be as close as possible and kind of looking at it flush and sort of flat, and if preferable looking up, which obviously you can't always pick and choose your scenario. So I'm trying to get two clips worth of damage. Just what I try and do, I sort of play conservative at the start, get sniping shots with my first 2 clips, and then go in with my third and try and get that assistance and push those damage numbers up, and use my tank and my hit points that I've conserved at the start as a distraction. So I've dumped my second clip, I believe. We're down on 3 tanks. The cap on encounter is being pressured, and I'm just going to wait until about 10 seconds, I believe, or well, I'm going now. But hopefully by the time I reach the middle, I'm going to be reloaded, and I'm going to cause some mayhem, cause some distraction with my maneuverability, and yeah, try and draw some of the guns and lines of sights away from my friendlies and try and get them on me. I'm going to come up behind this M1A2, going to go for one shot into a side auto aimed. I should have aimed, but I'm going to go for the tracks now, aim in, track the, it looks like a bot, yeah, it is a bot. Put 3 shots, I believe, 4 shots. I believe now it's going to get finished off by a friendly heavy tank, and I'm going to go and use my remaining 5 shots on these 2 heavy tanks here, which have the cap points, and are causing my friendlies some problems. So I'm going to circle round, shoot on the move, drive into a house, because I don't know why, I don't like houses obviously, but I'm just going to cause a distraction, and me causing that distraction there, obviously it wasn't solely me, but me helping cause that distraction, putting some shots in, getting a couple of kills, has kind of won us that game. And before you know it, I've racked up 9.5k direct damage, which is the highest damage I've achieved in this tank so far. We finished 3rd on the team. We make 209,000 silver, and I believe that is without a silver booster. Very good game, 1407 basic experience points. Yeah, and it's an enjoyable challenge to play. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for a new player, but for the sort of veteran players and players that want to have a bit of a challenge, I think this is, yeah, it's a welcome addition, and it's definitely not broken or overpowered, but it is powerful in the right hands. So yeah, I think that's all for this video. Thanks everyone for supporting my content and supporting the channel and checking this out. I hope that these replays and the rundown of my commander and equipment is useful to you. I do apologise if I ramble a bit much, but I'm trying to get as much information to you all as possible. I hope you all have a great weekend. There should be some more content coming out over the weekend. I'm going to a funeral tomorrow, which is Friday as this video goes out. Yeah, so there won't be any content tomorrow, but over the weekend there will be some more content for you. So have a great weekend. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.